Today on the Commanders Report, I've got 8 players currently on the 2025 Commanders roster that I think could be surprising cut candidates when the Commanders eventually get this team down to 53 players as we approach the NFL season. Before we get into the content today, let's beat the rest of the East here, guys. So with our other channels in the NFC East here at Chat Sports, Eagles now, Giants now, and the Cowboys Report, this is the most new subs that they gained on a video last week. Today, I want to beat all 3 of these channels. My goal is to get to triple digits, 100 new subscribers, but at the very least here, guys, I want to beat their top number from last week. So beat the Eagles, beat the Giants, and beat the Cowboys today by clicking that subscribe button. And new viewers, we are counting on you guys. If the real ones are watching this right now and you guys are subscribed, you guys have already done your part. But if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, you guys are the people that can help us beat the East today. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button for free in-depth Commanders content every single day. Now, before we get into the surprise cut candidates that we're going to be talking about on today's show, I want to be abundantly clear. This is not a predictions video per se. I'm not, listing these 8 players saying that they are going to get cut. I'm just saying that these would be some surprising names that I think are possibilities to be cut. I wanted to make that distinction at the beginning of today's show to save me a little grief in the comments section. But first, let's start with Michael Deiter and let's start with Trent Scott, the 2 offensive linemen that I have on my surprise cut candidates list. And the reason why they would be somewhat surprising is because these two players played significant snaps for the Washington Commanders last year at a bevy of different spots. Trent Scott even played in the playoff game and during the playoff run last year after Sam Cosmi tore his ACL. But you take a look at the Commanders' offensive line depth chart heading into this season, the Commanders really made a big investment on the offensive line. They brought in Laramie Tunsil, trading multiple draft picks to get him. They spent their first-round draft pick on their right tackle, Josh Carnerly Jr. They spent a relatively early draft pick last year on Brandon Coleman, who's going to be their starting left guard most likely. And then, when you take a look at all those new improvements that the Commanders have here, they also bring in Nate Herbig, somebody that's a really good rotational piece and kind of backup for the offensive line. I just don't know how much room there is for guys like Michael Deiter and Trent Scott to make the final roster. I think one of these guys probably will end up making the final roster, but I also think one of them will probably end up being cut when it's all said and done. Then you shift over to the defensive line here, where I think Eddie Goldman is kind of the most surprising name that I could see getting cut from the Washington Commanders. And the reason for that is Goldman just isn't really that good of a player, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, and he's actually retired before. So would it shock me if after a couple of poor weeks during training camp that he just says, I'm going to hang him up for good this time? It wouldn't shock me whatsoever if he's not on the final 53-man roster. Then also Javonte, Jean-Baptiste, an edge rusher here that was a 7th-round pick for the Commanders last season. A lot of people in Commanders Nation really like him and think that he's going to be a part of this rotation. But you take a look at the edge rusher room for the Commanders right now. You got Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, and Jacob Martin. Now, would it surprise me if they keep Jean-Baptiste on the roster here and carry 5 edge rushers? It wouldn't shock me, but it also wouldn't surprise me here if they add another edge rusher during the offseason, whether that's trading for a superstar guy like Trey Hendrickson or whether that's adding more of a designated pass rusher in free agency like Von Miller. If that happens, then Jean-Baptiste is really on the outs of this edge rusher group, and because they only spent a 7th-round pick on him last year, I do think there is a chance that he could be cut this year. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is a Commanders player that you think will surprisingly make the final roster? Who's somebody that is kind of being viewed as somebody that's on the outs that is going to work their way into the final 53-man roster by the end of the preseason? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know who your surprise addition to the Commanders roster is going to be this year. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, 4 more cut candidates, and they're only going to get more surprising as the video goes on here, guys, including one player that was a starter for the Washington Commanders just last season. But before we get into the rest of our cut candidates, candidates today. Go ahead and check out somebody's jersey here for somebody that's definitely not going to get cut in Jayden Daniels. You guys can get your Jayden Daniels jersey from our friends at Fanatics right now when you go to chatsports.com/Daniels. It also helps out our channel here at Chat Sports here, guys, because if you go to chatsports.com/Daniels and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds. So if you want to help out the Commanders Report today, we do provide you guys free content. So these kinds of ways that you can help the channel out financially really do help us out. So go to chatsports.com/Daniels. It's going to be a good investment, guys. He's going to be the starting quarterback of this team for the next decade plus. So if you want a jersey that you can wear literally forever for the Washington Commanders, you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels right now, and you can also help out the channel. So now let's get to some wide receivers that I think could get cut here. Michael Gallup and KJ Osborn. Gallup did not play NFL football last year, so maybe that one's not super surprising, but he is a bigger name type of player that I think some people might be surprised to see get cut on the final roster cuts this year. And then if I'm being completely honest with you guys, KJ Osborn is not that good of a player, all right? He just doesn't really run all that great routes. There's a reason why the New England Patriots, who had like the worst wide receiver room in football last year, cut him, and then he didn't play much for the Washington Commanders when they added him on last year. Now, he did have a very successful time in Minnesota as the number 3 wide receiver, but I mean, guys like Jalen Nailor are putting up great numbers there as the wide receiver 3 in Minnesota, because guess what? When you play alongside Justin Jefferson, who gets like triple teamed, and you have a great offensive play caller like Kevin O'Connell, you're going to get schemed open. So I don't really love KJ Osborn's route running, and outside of the framework of that Minnesota Vikings offense, I just don't know if he's really that good of a player, so it wouldn't shock me to see him get cut. Another skill position player here that I could see get cut is Chris Rodriguez Jr., kind of a later round pick. He's shown some good flashes throughout his Washington Commander journey, and he's kind of become a fan favorite of sorts. But you do bring in Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt in the 7th round this year out of Arizona, who I think is going to have a really good preseason. And then you do have Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. And keep in mind here, guys, that the Commanders only held 3 running backs to start the season last year on their final 53-man roster. So I could certainly see CRJ being like a practice squad type of player and still being on the roster technically. But in terms of cut candidates, I do think he's somebody that could miss out on the final 53-man roster. Then somebody that was a starter for the Washington Commanders just last season as their starting slot corner, I think has a chance to get cut this year, in Noah Igbinoghene. Now, Igbinoghene, I think that he brings great effort to the table. I'm never going to question, the effort that he brings to the table every single Sunday. But let's face it, guys, he was a liability in coverage from the slot last year. PFF had him graded at a 45.3, which is 115th out of 116 eligible cornerbacks, which is pretty ugly, which is why the Commanders went out and they addressed multiple spots on in this cornerback room. You got Mike Sainristil, who drafted to be in the slot. It looks like he's going to be moving back into the nickel position with Marshawn Lattimore and new rookie out of Ole Miss, Trey Amos, expected to play on the outside. And then you got Jonathan Jones, who can play both the slot position and on the outside. So would it completely shock me if they keep Igbinoghene on this roster as kind of like another backup option for the slot that has starting experience in this defense, has some chemistry with the players in this locker room? It wouldn't shock me, but also would it shock me at all here if they would cut him? No, because you got Mike Sainristil and you've got Jonathan Jones, both of which are more than capable of playing in the slot. And then also you have UDFA Robert McDaniel out of Jackson State, who's also very experienced in the slot, and I think his versatility gives him a chance to make the final roster. So I think Igbinoghene actually has a chance to be cut this year, guys. But let me know down there in the comments section, which Commanders player will surprisingly won't make the roster this year? Do you think it's Noah Igbinoghene? Do you think it's Chris Rodriguez Jr.? Is it somebody I didn't even mention on today's video? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. You guys have my list. Now give me yours. Now, before I go here, a couple of final news items that I want to discuss that have to do with the Washington Commanders. We'll start with the new numbers for the rookie class. Josh Conerly Jr. is going to be wearing the number 72. Trey Amos moving from number 9 to number 23. So that is Marshawn Lattimore's old number. Then you guys can see the rest right there. Kai Madrano is going to be wearing number 56. And then you got Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, who's going to be wearing number 32. And then then Jalen Lane will be wearing number 83. And then also it was announced that in 2027, Washington, D.C. will officially be hosting the 2027 NFL Draft. So this is an awesome opportunity for the nation's capital here. The setup that they have as well looks really, really cool. They got the stage right in front of the nation's capital. And then, of course, right across the way is the Washington Monument on kind of the premises as well. So it looks really, really cool. It's going to be an awesome event for this city and for this fan base to really enjoy. And hopefully by that point, this team might have another Lombardi trophy under their belt. But let's not jinx that. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Again, if you enjoyed what you heard today and you want more Commanders content tomorrow and every single day leading up to the 2025 NFL season, and you want to beat the rest of the teams in the NFC East here at Chat Sports, click that subscribe button right now. I promise you, the only thing that you're going to regret is you didn't click that button sooner.